I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch network. Look, I know you probably have heard the name Michael Luttig before, the former United States Court of Appeals judge from the Fourth Circuit, right-wing judge, as right-wing as you get, who's been one of the most vocal opponents of Donald Trump and the MAGA movement, calling them not conservative at all. I want to show you a recent interview with Luttig, but I want to again just remind you of who Luttig is. So after Luttig graduated from Virginia School of Law, he worked for George H.W. Bush, and he served in the Bush administration as the United States Assistant Attorney General for the Office of Legal Counsel. Then, at the age of 37 years old, Judge Luttig became a Court of Appeals judge. He was viewed as right-wing as you get, as conservative as you get. And under Judge Luttig, he trained all of the conservative judges, and of the 33 of the 40 of his law clerks went on to clerk with the conservative justices on the Supreme Court. 33 clerked for either Justice Thomas or Justice Scalia. Luttig's clerks called themselves the litigators. This was the epicenter of the conservative jurist movement that Luttig was the leader of. So when we show you these videos of Luttig, and if you have friends who call themselves conservative, if you call yourself conservative, Luttig was the most conservative that you get. And frankly, I'm sure if you asked Luttig, he would still say, yeah, I'm conservative. MAGA isn't conservative. MAGA is some mutation that has nothing to do with the conservative movement, but the way the Republican Party has mutated, they've taken over those labels, but they don't apply. And that's why I always say here on the MeidasTouch network, do not call these MAGA Republicans conservative. There's nothing conservative about them. So I think it's helpful that I give you that background on Judge Luttig. Yes, Judge Luttig testified at the January 6th committee hearings. Former Vice President Pence went to Judge Luttig when Luttig retired and asked Luttig for advice on what to do, because Luttig was the godfather of the conservative movement. You go to Luttig to ask those questions. With that context, let me show you this recent interview that Judge Luttig did. This is on MSNBC, where he explains how the Republican Party, led by Trump, engaged in insurrection. And it's not just Trump, he says. It's Trump and today's Republican Party. But Luttig has a message of hope here that I want to share with you. Play this clip.
The Republicans, led by the former president, instigated a war on American democracy on January 6, 2021. And now, today, three years later, we know that they are determined to prosecute that war to its catastrophic end. Thus, the former president and his allies have continued to deny the 2020 presidential election for 3 years, maintaining that election was stolen from the former president, notwithstanding that there is no evidence whatsoever of that, and that indeed President Joe Biden won that election fair and square. Meanwhile, during those 3 years, that effort, led by the former president, has laid waste to Americans' confidence in their democracy and in their elections, in their Constitution, and in their rule of law. America will never recover from this assault on its democracy. Hopefully, with time, and in the not too distant future, America will come to its senses and move on and beyond this tragic period in our history. But we will never recover as a nation from these past 3 years. nor will we ever be viewed in the same way by the world. Prior to January 6th, we were the beacon, if you will, of democracy around the world. No longer, I think, will that be the case.
You know, and I think it's worth sharing with you, too, as I showed you that clip of Luttig, another actual conservative. Not the MAGA mutation, an actual conservative. This is Stuart Gerson, who led the Department of Justice Civil Division under George H.W. Bush and served for a short period of time. He was appointed by Bush. And then for a short period of time during the kind of transitory period, served as acting attorney general under President Bill Clinton. But he was a Bush guy. And here he is, Gerson, former acting attorney general, an actual conservative, saying what we always say here at the MeidasTouch Network, which is this MAGA movement thing is not conservative at all. Here, play this clip.
George Washington was given the opportunity to become a king. We didn't want to have that. We didn't want authoritarianism. It's not just a U.S. trend. I mean, look at Turkey, at India, at Hungary, at countries all over the place. And why are we seeing a trend towards autocracy? We could spend a lot of time talking about the future of work, talking about how people are invested in their society. But it's our job to say that ordinary people are going to do a lot worse under an autocratic government. These people style themselves, and the press unfortunately styles them as conservative. There's nothing conservative about them. I'm a conservative. Mike Luttig is a conservative. Jurisprudentially and governmentally, we believe in limited government. These MAGAs don't believe in that at all. They believe in an intrusive, pervasive government, dictating what you do with your lives and what you think and what you can say. It's our job to speak out about that and to speak out about the rule of law and why that gives you a better life.
You know, and that brings me to this other video. This is Christie. I've showed this video, I believe, at least once before. You may have seen it here, but it's in the context of showing Luttig, showing Gerson, now showing Christie. Here, Christie says, look, folks, this isn't the prosecutions of Donald Trump. It's not some liberal lefty thing. He goes, you know who's testifying against Trump? Mark Meadows, who used to be the leader of the Freedom Caucus. You're going to have Mark Meadows, Trump's own former chief of staff, is the one testifying against Donald Trump. Here, play this video of this recent clip with Christie. Play it.
You cannot get in this business and decide that the only election that you'll accept is one you win. That the only election that's fair is the one I win. You can't go out behind the seal of the President of the United States in the East Room of the White House on election night and say the election was stolen when you have no evidence to prove it was. And in fact, we sit here now 3 years later and there's still no evidence the election was stolen. You want to know why? Because it wasn't. He lost. Then he sent this country and so many supporters of his down a road that's led many of them to prison. And more of them are going to go to prison because of what happened on January 6th. And people who worked right around him are now going to prison because he asked them to commit crimes on his behalf. And let me tell you what's going to happen this March. He's going to walk into a courtroom in Washington, D.C., and his own former chief of staff, Mark Meadows, has cut a deal for immunity, and he is going to testify as far away as I am from you. He's going to be from Donald Trump and saying, I committed crimes at his instruction, and he committed crimes right before my eyes. Now, let me ask you something, everybody. If that doesn't disqualify you from being president of the United States, what the hell does?
Now, look, I could show you a bunch of Democrats as well who have some brilliant, scathing takedowns of Donald Trump. I can show you judges, retired lawyers, top lawyers, people associated with Democratic administrations. But I just think it's helpful when I provide you with the context here of just showing, okay, look, let's look at what actual conservatives are saying here. And then you can see for yourself. It's the MAGA movement is not conservative, and we have to start talking about this the right way. And I think by showing Luttig, Gerson, Christie, you can get a sense of MAGA ain't conservative. So share this video with your friends, family, colleagues, coworkers. Let them know. Make sure you hit subscribe as well, and have a great day.
Hey Midas Mighty, love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram @MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.